Chapter 41. A Grand Wedding. What about the wedding convoy? Is that Caspian's idea too? Willow asked again. Yup. Shireen nodded in confirmation. Now that everything was confirmed, everybody was surprised once again. Miranda was filled with mixed emotions. She didn't expect her husband to be so influential. Not only did he mobilize over 1,000 world-class luxury cars, but he also got armored vehicles to escort him. Everything seemed surreal. If all of this was true, why did he conceal his identity? Why endure the ridicule and taunts of others? Miranda was in shock. Although she had known that Caspian had an extraordinary background, she never expected him to be so powerful. He held a wedding that could shake the entire city. How many more secrets was this man hiding? Zoe and Willow's schoolmates were equally stunned. Who would have imagined that Miranda's spouse had such an influential background? The stewards even mocked them before this. Finally, they could stand tall. Marilyn's face turned dark. Just a moment ago, she had forced Willow and Caspian into almost getting a divorce. She wanted to cut all ties with her and even drove her out of the family. Could she possibly salvage their relationship? Kate was bewildered, too. The son-in-law, whom she had always looked down upon, had such a formidable background. If she had known, she would never have spoken ill of him. Those relatives who had mocked Willow earlier were now thinking about how to please Willow. The scions, who were kneeling on the ground, were dumbfounded. They felt like clowns now. Willow's husband was so powerful, they would never have a chance to win her heart. The next moment, a dozen female special agents surrounded Willow and protected her. "You lot, get out of here," Shirlene said coldly. Seeing these scions' behavior, she felt nauseated. As Shirlene's words fell, these young men wasted no time. They quickly got up to leave. However, a young man from the Larson family was bold enough to approach Shirlene. He presented a ring to her. "Beautiful lady, I love you. Will you marry me? I fell for you at first sight." Since he was already on the ground and couldn't win Willow's heart, he thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to take this good-looking bridesmaid with him instead. At least he wouldn't leave empty-handed. This sudden scene left many scions in a daze. They admired Mr. Larson for his spontaneous adaptability. If this beautiful lady really accepted him, others would likely regret it. "Get lost," Shirlene shouted and then kicked him out. "Ouch!" Mr. Larson screamed and was sent flying several meters away. Now, the scions who were harboring fantasies were taken aback. That bridesmaid was a feisty one. Mr. Larson, who was sent flying, dared not say a word. "Both of you, who are you bridesmaids for?" Shirlene noticed Miranda and Zoe. Today, 2 weddings were taking place, and she didn't know the identities of Miranda and Zoe. Miranda and Zoe were still stunned. "I invited them," Willow hurriedly explained. "All right, both of you stand here." Shirlene waved her hand after knowing Miranda's and Zoe's identities. She positioned them on Willow's side. At this moment, over 1,000 world-class luxury cars were parked outside the Stewart residence. Richard's convoy had already occupied some space. With all the cars here now, the streets outside the Stewart residence were completely gridlocked. Richard was well aware that he had lost, especially regarding the wedding convoy. He could only leave after the other vehicles departed. The next moment, guards dressed in camouflage attire with real weaponry arrive. They stood at intervals of 2 meters outside the Stewart residence. These guards were armed, and everyone was left in shock. It's impossible. That loser Caspian couldn't possibly arrange such a massive operation. Alicia couldn't accept this reality. She refused to believe that all of this was Caspian's doings. Not only Alicia but the others also couldn't fathom why Caspian had such a powerful background. By this time, the people from the convoy had stepped out of their cars. They stood courteously next to their luxury vehicles. "Quick, look, it's Jordan, the heir of the Carr family of Dord City. I never expected Jordan to show up. Oh my goodness. There's also Felix, the son of the Stein family. It's Zach from the Giles family. Harris from the Lloyd family is here too. There's also Sean from the Lawson family. The crowd was in complete shock. They could never have imagined that the sons of the 5 wealthiest families in Dord City would gather at the Stewart residence in South Lake City. Jordan, Felix, Zach, Harris, and Sean stepped out of their cars. They didn't walk around. Instead, they stood quietly beside their luxury vehicles. Willow, Zoe, and Miranda couldn't fathom these 5 scions would travel all the way here to join the wedding convoy. They were willing to become the bridegroom for someone else. The scene continued to grow grander. People couldn't even begin to imagine what would happen next. Who could have such connections to bring the prodigal of the capital's 5 wealthiest families here at the same time? These scions have considerable influence in the capital. The person who invited them must be even more renowned. Did Caspian bring them here? No way. Let's keep watching. The crowd was eager for the groom to make an appearance. Although Charlene said that all of this had been arranged by Caspian, the grandeur of the spectacle left everyone in disbelief. They couldn't believe that Caspian had the ability to do this. Willow began to feel nervous too. She felt a sense of anticipation. Was it really Caspian? Several minutes had passed, but Caspian was still nowhere to be seen. Why is Caspian taking so long to arrive? Willow asked anxiously. Ms. Stewart, I forgot to inform you that Mr. Lynch mentioned he might be a little late. Please give him a moment, Charlene explained apologetically. Will it really be Caspian? Willow asked. Chapter 42, escorted by 8 fighter jets. Ms. Stewart, besides Mr. Lynch, who else is qualified to be your husband? Charlene responded. Then why is he taking so long to arrive? Willow asked again. She still found it hard to believe that he had arranged such a grand event. Mr. Lynch has been delayed due to some unforeseen circumstances, but he will definitely arrive. Charlene couldn't tell Willow that Caspian was attacked. So, she brushed her off with a random excuse. The appearance of the luxurious motorcade had turned the surroundings of the mansion into a bustling spectacle. The conversation between the two was not loud, so the people didn't hear them. Do you really believe that Caspian, that useless guy, could orchestrate such a grand spectacle? The groom must be someone else. Noticing that Caspian hadn't shown up, Alicia was delighted. She had never believed that Caspian could arrange such a magnificent event. The stewards heaved a sigh of relief as well. They had been constantly mocking Caspian before this. They were worried that Caspian might take revenge on them if he was really such a powerful guy. Even if Caspian didn't bother to get back at them, they would feel embarrassed. In their opinion, except for Caspian, they were ready to accept anyone who was interested in Willow. Those who had disrespected Caspian before this also hoped that he wasn't behind this massive event. Just then, a roar rang out in the sky. The crowd turned their gaze toward the source of the sound. They witnessed a helicopter, accompanied by 8 fighter jets, approaching the Stewart residence. Positioned in the center, the helicopter was escorted by the fighter jets. It was an awe-inspiring spectacle. As the helicopter descended, everyone could see the figure inside it. It was Caspian. Donning a neat suit, he held a flower bouquet. He exuded the air of a successful businessman. He radiated confidence and dominance. Who else could be the groom if not for Caspian? His arrival left everybody in shock. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. He even had 8 fighter jets to escort him. What was his background? Such a grand scene was beyond their wildest expectations. Not even the most powerful figures in South Lake City could match this display of grandeur. Willow felt mixed emotions when she saw Caspian arriving at the 11th hour. Her eyes welled up with tears. This occasion was beyond her expectations. The man she had been waiting for had finally arrived. The helicopter landed steadily in an open area. Several groomsmen, dressed in smart suits, disembarked from the fighter jets. These groomsmen were elite bodyguards prearranged by John to ensure Caspian's safety. They formed 2 lines in front of Caspian's helicopter. Accompanied by John and Sylvia, Caspian stepped out of the helicopter. Oh, my God. That's John Anderson, a military officer of South Aridlands. What is he doing here? Someone in the crowd recognized John. They exclaimed in shock. Who on earth is Caspian? Even Mr. Anderson is here to support him. Mr. Anderson is a high-ranking officer in the South Aridlands. Why is he with Caspian? More people began to recognize John, and they were astounded. Nobody expected a high-ranking military officer like John to accompany Caspian to pick up his fiancée. Individuals like him rarely made public appearances, let alone participate in a wedding ceremony. The person on Caspian's right is also a general officer. Someone noticed the insignia on Sylvia's attire and pointed it out. Wow, he surely has some real connections. A high-ranking officer and a general officer. How impressive. Someone else exclaimed. Sylvia had kept a low profile while working with Caspian. Many people didn't know her true identity. They only discerned her as a general officer based on her attire. However, Willow recognized Sylvia and had a vivid impression of her. Sylvia had come to help Caspian during their gathering. Willow thought it was all part of a show orchestrated by Caspian. Now, it seemed like everything was real. Why would a general officer show such respect to Caspian? What was Caspian's real identity? The members of the Stewarts were terrified when they saw this grand scene. Recalling how he disrespected Caspian before this, Richard was filled with fear. Nicholas, who had proposed to Willow before Caspian, was scared out of his wits too. Who would have thought that Caspian had such a formidable background? The humiliation he had heaped upon Caspian back then seemed like a grave mistake now. Zoe and her classmates were left dumbfounded. They couldn't fathom that Caspian's background was this powerful. Even Miranda, who had already known about Caspian's special identity, was greatly shocked. She knew Caspian was the CEO of Southlake Corporation, but she didn't have the full picture. Only now did she realize Caspian was more than just a wealthy guy. His power exceeded her expectations. Under the escort of John and Sylvia, Caspian approached Willow with the bouquet of flowers. Willow felt like she was dreaming. Everything seemed so surreal. Who exactly was Caspian? Why would such a high-ranking officer show him such respect? Caspian looked especially dominant and charming now. The regal aura emanating from him created an invisible pressure. People dared not make eye contact with him. Caspian had become the center of attention. The crowd fell silent. Although Sylvia and John were officers, they could only follow obediently behind Caspian and escort him. Willow teared up. She was overwhelmed with emotions as she watched Caspian approach her step by step. For a moment, she didn't know how to react. Willow, I'm sorry for being late, Caspian said softly and handed the bouquet of flowers to Willow. Why did you arrive so late? Do you know how long I've waited for you? Willow's words were somewhat incoherent. She recalled how her family mocked her earlier, and she felt wronged. I had some important matters to attend to, but I promised you I would come and give you an unprecedented surprise. Do you like it? Caspian asked. Chapter 43, The Ocean's Heart. Of course, I love it. I didn't expect such a huge surprise from you, Willow exclaimed. Seeing the tears in her eyes, Caspian asked again, Did someone bother you before I arrived? No, I was just a bit emotional. That's why I cried. Willow was filled with joy. She no longer wanted to dwell on what happened earlier. Caspian scanned his surroundings and noticed a group of scions, each holding a diamond ring. Nicholas was there too. It seemed like they had proposed to Willow just now. Caspian could guess what had happened earlier. Caspian wanted to put the ring he had prepared for Willow during their wedding ceremony at the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. But he couldn't resist the urge to humiliate these guys. So, he took out the custom-made diamond ring. The ring box instantly became the center of attention. As Caspian opened the box, a deep blue, teardrop-shaped ring came into their sight. Wow, it's the ocean's heart. I've heard this deep blue diamond is priceless. A man said, Oh, my God, that must be the only ocean's heart in the world. It's valued at around $60 million. I can't believe I get to see it here. A woman in a glamorous outfit marveled. The crowd was dumbfounded. Many people had heard of and read about the ocean's heart in magazines. but few have ever seen it with their own eyes. They never expected this $60 million diamond would be in Caspian's possession. He bought a single ring worth $60 million. Just how rich was Caspian? Seeing Caspian's ring, those scions who held rings worth tens of thousands of dollars felt utterly embarrassed. They quickly hid their rings. The stewards, especially Kate, were so shocked that they turned speechless. She asked Nicholas to propose to Willow in front of Caspian because she was attracted to his background. She even mocked Caspian for not being able to afford a ring worth tens of thousands of dollars for Willow. But now, he had produced a $60 million ring. Not to mention, there was only one in the world. Nicholas's face was ashen. He stood frozen in place. Willow was shocked, too. The surprise Caspian brought today exceeded her wildest expectations. A $60 million ring. She hadn't even dreamed of it. Even Miranda and Zoe were left dumbfounded. Honey, you've suffered so much. Today, I'll fulfill my promise and give you the perfect wedding. The ring is too expensive. Willow responded nervously. Only a ring like this is worthy of you, Willow. There's only one Ocean's heart in the world, and it perfectly matches your uniqueness. Willow, let me put it on for you. As Caspian spoke, he took Willow's finger and placed the deep blue diamond ring on her left ring finger. From this moment on, you are officially my wife, Caspian declared. Applause filled the venue. Everyone shifted their attention to Willow. All the women present were envious. At this moment, Willow felt like the happiest woman in the world. A rosy blush crept onto her face. Someone suddenly stumbled and fainted. The crowd turned their heads and realized it was Marilyn who fainted. Mom, Grandma, panicking, the stewards rushed to Marilyn's side when they saw her passing out. Willow, who was immersed in happiness, was stunned, too. Although Marilyn mistreated her, they were still family. She didn't want anything bad to happen to Marilyn. Caspian was shocked, too. It was his wedding day. He didn't want something like that to happen. The grand wedding was meant to change how the stewards viewed him. He didn't do it to provoke Marilyn. If something bad happened to Marilyn, they might have to postpone the wedding. Caspian, let's go check on Grandma together. Willow was surrounded by her bridesmaids. It was difficult for her to leave alone. So, she asked for Caspian's help. The groomsmen and bridesmaids were responsible for protecting Caspian and Willow. As long as these two remained safe, they didn't care about any extraordinary incidents. All right, everyone, make way, Caspian called out. Upon hearing Caspian's command, the guests parted to the sides. Caspian led Willow toward the Stewart residence to check on Marilyn. Their groomsmen and bridesmaids followed closely. Before long, Marilyn regained consciousness. Help me up, Marilyn said in a trembling voice. She had fainted earlier because she was too overwhelmed by Caspian's grand entrance. Given her old age, she couldn't handle such excitement. Hence, she passed out. But she was okay. She was eager to see what other surprises Caspian had in store. The stewards breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Marilyn regaining consciousness. Meanwhile, some of the relatives and guests began gossiping. Madam Stewart is probably senile. She didn't realize how outstanding her grandson-in-law was. She even tried to drive Willow out of their family and cut ties with her. I know, right. A son-in-law as excellent as this one is hard to come by. Caspian could make the Stewarts prosper with just one word. I'm sure the Stewarts will become the most prominent family in South Lake City from now on. She must have fainted due to the shock of losing such an exceptional grandson-in-law. I'm certain she's regretting it now. She drove her own granddaughter out of the house. Now, Caspian is no longer related to them. There's no way she'll ever get help from Caspian. Indeed, Marilyn was full of regrets. Had she known about Caspian's true capabilities, she would never have cut ties with Willow. Caspian's face fell when he heard the discussions. He finally understood what had happened. So, Marilyn kicked Willow out of the Stewarts. In that case, her well-being no longer mattered to him. Caspian, Why did you stop? Willow paused in her steps and asked in confusion. Madam Stewart is fine now. Let's get on with our own affairs. All right. Willow nodded. In fact, she also harbored some resentment toward Marilyn from what happened earlier. Could you put on the ring for me too? Caspian retrieved the ring box again. Under the people's gazes, Willow took the ring box. Chapter 44, Shameless. The moment the box opened, a dazzling radiance bloomed. Then, a pure, white diamond ring appeared in everyone's sight. Wow, such a dazzling diamond ring, the onlookers exclaimed in amazement. Although this ring might not be as extravagant as Willow's unique ocean's heart, it was flawless. It still appeared to be worth millions. At this point, Willow was less surprised. Caspian had already given her the one-of-a-kind ocean's heart. So, a diamond ring worth millions was not as astonishing anymore. Willow took the flawless diamond ring and placed it on Caspian's ring finger. However, as Willow did this, she caught a glimpse of a prestigious watch on Caspian's left wrist. It was no ordinary watch. It was from a world-renowned brand, Jaeger-LeCoultre. Jaeger-LeCoultre was a globally recognized luxury watch brand. Even their most basic models cost tens of thousands of dollars. Caspian's watch seemed to be a meticulously crafted piece. It must be worth several $1,000,000. Considering Caspian could afford her ring, a watch worth several million was hardly surprising. This Jaeger-LeCoultre watch was actually a gift from Sylvia to Caspian. She believed that a successful man needed an exquisite timepiece as a symbol of his success and to enhance his overall presence. Furthermore, every minute and second was precious for Caspian. From now on, you belong to me and only me. You're not allowed to look at other women, and you can only treat me well, Willow said shyly. Of course, you are the most unique person in the world. I only love you, Caspian responded. This unexpected display of affection between Caspian and Willow left some of the young girls present feeling excited. Is this what they call a domineering CEO? The groom is so handsome. When will I have a husband like that? Stop dreaming. Willow is one of the most beautiful women in South Lake City. Look at yourself. You can't even compare. I might not be able to date the groom, but these groomsmen look decent, too. They all look handsome. I don't mind picking any one of them. Yes, these groomsmen have a strong presence and charming faces. They're much better than those weak guys around Richard. How dare Richard and Alicia compare themselves to Caspian? Their wedding is nothing compared to Caspian. They overestimated themselves. Leaving aside other aspects, they are completely overshadowed, just in terms of groomsmen and bridesmaids. Did you see the limited edition watch on the groom's left hand? It's a Jaeger-LeCoultre released this year. It's a handmade limited edition piece. Rumors had it said that they only produce one of those watches a year. It is really rare. A random watch of his costs more than all of Richard's wedding cars combined. What can Richard use to compete with him? Look at the groom's wedding entourage. All of them have $1,000,000 cars. He even arrived in a helicopter, had fighter jets to escort him, and had high-ranking military officers as companions. Don't forget the ocean's heart he had prepared for Willow. He definitely outshines Richard and Alicia. I never thought their wedding would be this grand. Richard and Alicia are totally defeated. This wedding will cause a worldwide sensation. Exactly. Caspian's background is incredibly strong. The officers of Diatorin are here to accompany him. Even the heirs of the 5 wealthiest families in Dord City are here to support him. His social circle must be on a completely different level from Richard and Alicia's. Let's put all these external factors aside. Just look at the bride and groom. Caspian is a talented and charismatic man with a strong presence, while Willow is a graceful and stunning woman. They are already a match made in heaven. Now, look at Richard and Alicia. They look like clowns before Caspian and Willow. If I were in their shoes, I'd want to hide somewhere. It's too embarrassing. The crowd chattered away. Richard and Alicia felt their faces burning. At this moment, they finally understood what it felt like to be ridiculed. They also realized that there was no way their wedding could compare to Caspian's. They had lost thoroughly. At this moment, Marilyn approached Caspian and Willow. "Willow, you won't blame me, will you? I said all those things in a fit of anger. I hope you won't take it to heart," Marilyn said with an embarrassed smile. "What?" Willow responded calmly. "You are my favorite granddaughter. In terms of talent and appearance, you are the best among the younger generation of the Stuarts. How could I possibly cut ties with you, let alone kick you out of the Stuarts? You're not mad at Grandma, are you?" Marilyn continued. Hearing Marilyn say this, some of the people looked down on her. Believe this. Madame Stuart is really shameless. She showed no mercy when she kicked Willow out earlier. Now, she has the nerve to say that she was joking. Yeah, I've never seen anyone with such thick skin. If it weren't for Caspian's strong background, she would never have apologized to her granddaughter. I heard about the Stuarts. They've always looked down on Caspian and treated him like a loser. Now that he's revealed his true identity, just look at these people. They're trying to flatter him like dogs. If I had such a capable son-in-law, I'd probably be over the moon. How could the Stuarts look down on him? Hearing these comments, Marilyn couldn't help but feel embarrassed. But it didn't matter to her as long as she could win back her granddaughter's favor. She was willing to set aside her pride. "Willow, you know the situation before this. Caspian had nothing back then. If I had known he was such a capable guy, I wouldn't have treated him that way." Marilyn forced a half smile and tried to appease Willow. Willow was full of questions about Caspian's background. She had many things to ask him. Who exactly was he? How did he manage to bring the 5 heirs and the officers here? Why would he marry her and endure her family's mocking behaviors? He could have revealed his true identity earlier. Willow wanted to hear the answers, but there were too many people around. She decided to wait until after the wedding to hear Caspian explain everything in person. Chapter 45, An Armored Car. "Caspian, we might have given you the cold shoulder recently. In fact, I purposely did that. It served as a test to see how you would treat Willow. Now, I've seen that your feelings for her are genuine. I can rest easy in trusting her to you," Marilyn explained to Caspian. "Today is my wedding day, so let's not dwell on other matters." "I don't want to discuss them further," Caspian calmly replied. He made such a grand spectacle for Willow. He wanted to make the Stuarts see her in a new light. He hadn't given much thought about anything else. Caspian was the king of Diatorian. He had spent years on the battlefield. He wouldn't concern himself with such trivial matters. Willow was surprised by Caspian's magnanimity. Despite enduring so much injustice and malicious gossip at the Stuarts' hands, he simply brushed it off and didn't let it bother him. Since Caspian didn't care, she didn't want to dwell on it either. She turned to Marilyn and said, "As long as you don't force us to divorce, everything else is negotiable." Ashamed, Marilyn quickly responded, "Why would I want to separate such a wonderful son-in-law like Caspian from you? Making you sign a divorce agreement was also a test to see if your love for Caspian was genuine. Now that I see how much you love each other, I am even happier." With that said, she tore the divorce agreement to shreds in front of everyone. Only then did Caspian realize Marilyn had gone to such lengths before this to pressure Willow. Observing the situation, Kate, Willow's mother, began to praise Caspian. "I'm confident in my daughter's taste of men." Then, she cast a disdainful gaze at the scions of South Lake City. "What makes you scions think you can compare to my accomplished and handsome son-in-law? Check yourself in the mirrors. Can any of you match my suave and dashing son-in-law? I don't know where your confidence comes from. How dare you try to court Willow?" The scions were left speechless. Kate had no will of her own. Nicholas resonated with that the most. Kate was the one who asked him to propose to Willow, but he dared not comment much due to Caspian's background. The crowd thought Kate and Marilyn were pretentious. On the other hand, Carl, Willow's father, felt a sense of relief upon seeing Caspian's substantial background. Despite having reservations about this marriage, he realized his daughter's happiness was the most important. He had seen Caspian and Willow being mistreated before. But his lowly status at home prevented him from supporting them. Willow, it's almost time. The guests have arrived. We should head to the hotel to hold the wedding. Caspian didn't want to waste any more time. Where is our wedding taking place? You've never told me before this, Willow asked curiously. Caspian asked her not to worry about the wedding. So, she was unaware of the location. The Jade Dragon Grand Hotel, Caspian replied. Upon hearing what he said, everybody was stunned, except for John, Sylvia, and the others who had already known beforehand. A few days ago, news about a mysterious tycoon who had rented the entire Jade Dragon Grand Hotel had spread like wildfire in South Lake City. Everyone had been speculating about this person's identity, but never did it cross anybody's mind that the person could be Caspian. Now that everybody had learned about Caspian's background, it was no surprise that he was the one who reserved the entire hotel. Only the most luxurious hotel in South Lake City was worthy enough for Caspian and Willow's wedding. Oh, did you reserve the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel? Why didn't you tell me all this time? Willow complained. Didn't I say I wanted to surprise you? The surprise would be ruined if I told you in advance. Caspian looked at Willow indulgently. All right, let's hurry up. Look at all those people waiting in the welcoming procession. They've been standing there for a long time. Willow felt embarrassed when she saw the heirs from the capital waiting respectfully before their cars. Okay. Caspian nodded and took Willow's hand as they prepared to enter the wedding car. Greetings to the newlyweds. The welcoming procession shouted in unison upon seeing Caspian and Willow approaching. The scene was truly magnificent, with thousands of people cheering at the same time. Willow, which car in the convoy would you like to take to the wedding venue? Caspian asked kindly. I don't want to ride in any of them, Willow replied. Then do you want to take a helicopter? That's no problem. Which one would you like to ride? Caspian smiled. No, I want to take the armored car. Willow smiled. Caspian paused briefly and asked, why do you want to take an armored car? Only then it'll be a unique wedding. Imagine how grand and majestic we'll look to get married in an armored car. Willow explained, all right, we'll do as you wish. That's a simple request. Caspian responded indulgently. John and Sylvia were delighted to hear that Willow wanted to ride an armored vehicle. They knew that the Apex Legion had infiltrated South Lake City. Nobody knew when they would take action. An armored car was the best choice. After all, the armored car is the safest vehicle. The members of the Apex Legion wouldn't be able to do anything if Caspian and Willow took an armored car. Willow didn't think too much about anything else. She simply wanted to ride an armored car out of curiosity. She had many opportunities to ride in luxury cars in the future, but an armored vehicle was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, especially in such a grand setting. Ms. Barton, Zoe, let's go. We'll be riding in an armored car today. Delighted, Willow said to Miranda and Zoe. Great. Miranda and Zoe nodded. Seeing an armored car was a first for them. It would be a unique experience to ride in it. Guys, let's go to the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel together. You can ride in these luxury cars, Willow said to her classmates. Amazed by Caspian's doings, Willow's classmates finally snapped to reality. All right, Yannick, the class monitor, nodded. The group headed toward the wedding convoy. Wait, my dear son-in-law and sweet daughter, have you forgotten your mother? Catching up with them, Kate shouted. Don't forget me either. I have to host your wedding. Marilyn raised her cane excitedly. She had lived her whole life and had never had the chance to enter the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. She didn't want to miss out on this special occasion. The Stewarts' relatives also gathered together. They were eager to be part of Caspian and Willow's wedding. Chapter 46. You're not qualified. Oh, so you're all coming too. Weren't you supposed to attend Alicia's wedding? Of course, if you'd like to come to our wedding as well, you're more than welcome, Caspian said with a smile. Why attend her wedding when we've been looking forward to attending your wedding all along? Yeah, Willow, you're the older one. By right, we should attend your wedding first. Alicia insisted on having her wedding on the same day as yours. We couldn't say no, but we really want to be there for your wedding." The stewards tried to curry favor with Caspian and Willow. They even belittled Alicia. "Dad, why are you standing there? We need you to officiate our wedding. Come on," Caspian called out when he noticed Carl lost in thought. Of course. Carl snapped back to reality, and his face lit up. He never expected his seemingly useless son-in-law would turn out to be so accomplished. After all these years, the stewards still treated him like a loser. He couldn't help but wish he could be like Caspian. Someday. Alicia felt somewhat at a loss. She hadn't expected those relatives who had supported her would all flock to Caspian's side. She had chosen to have her wedding on the same day as Caspian and Willow's to humiliate them. But now she found herself in an embarrassing situation. Apart from her parents and Henry, who couldn't attend Caspian and Willow's wedding, the others had chosen to side with Willow. Some of the guests from South Lake City, who had come to attend Alicia's wedding, were now eager to join Willow's wedding as well. However, Caspian's expression turned solemn. "Our wedding has limited seating. Only those who have received invitations can attend. As for the others, there's no place for you in the hotel, so you're not welcome." As the lord of the country, Caspian wouldn't simply let anyone attend his wedding. Otherwise, everybody in South Lake City would flock to his wedding. No hotel would be able to hold so many guests. Besides, the Apex Legion had already infiltrated South Lake City. The higher the number of people, the more chaotic it was. It could lead to potential dangers, as the members of Apex Legion might use the chance to launch an attack. Moreover, he wasn't interested in these uninvited guests. Anyway, they were here to attend Alicia and Richard's wedding. None of them were related to him. It wasn't a good idea to take away all of Alicia's guests. Upon getting rejected by Caspian, the businessmen from South Lake City felt dejected. After witnessing the grand spectacle, they were no longer interested in Alicia and Richard's wedding. Besides, they didn't want to be caught in the middle of this family rivalry. It was unwise to worsen the already tense relationship between Caspian and Alicia, even if they couldn't win Caspian's heart. Hence, they left one by one. They chose not to attend either wedding. Caspian, Willow, Miranda, and Zoe got into one of the armored vehicles. John and Sylvia entered another one behind them. The armored cars were unquestionably safe. Those inside did not need any other protection. Willow's classmates, along with guests from the Bartons attending the wedding, sat in the luxury cars. With over 1,000 luxury vehicles in tow, the procession was truly impressive. Each prominent family had dispatched about 200 luxury cars. The helicopter took off and was ready to return to South Aridlands. Once everybody entered the cars, the armored cars began leading the way. The high-end cars followed closely behind as they made their way toward the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. This extravagant spectacle shook the entire city. Residents gathered along the streets, eager to catch a glimpse of this extraordinary wedding. "Willow, just relax," Zoe said, trying to comfort Willow, who seemed a bit nervous. "You look more nervous than me." Willow smiled. "I'm so envious right now. Your husband is just too amazing. If only I could find someone like Caspian." Zoe sighed, her face filled with admiration. "Caspian, what's exactly your background?" Willow couldn't wait to uncover Caspian's true identity. "I'll tell you when we're alone tonight," Caspian said. After the armored vehicles and the caravan of luxury cars departed, Alicia was left fuming. She gritted her teeth and muttered, "Who the hell is that Caspian? How dare he make a fool out of me like this? This is ridiculous. You have to hold yourself back even if you're angry. He's too powerful. You will never outmaneuver him," Alicia's mother said. "I don't believe he's that capable. He must have used his connections to stage this whole thing. If I catch any evidence of that, I'll make sure he pays," Alicia fiercely declared. "We need to hurry to the Lunar Hotel now. We're running out of time. We still need to proceed with the wedding. Don't forget, we've invited quite a few politicians and businessmen from South Lake City. Your wedding will be perfectly fine." Donald reassured her. But deep down, he couldn't deny that his daughter's wedding had been completely overshadowed by Willow and Caspian's grand wedding. Exactly. The Hudsons are quite reputable in South Lake City. We have many elites attending our wedding. Let's go, Richard chimed in. Alicia and Richard then headed to the Lunar Hotel. Caspian's procession arrived at the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. Guards surrounded the hotel. They even set up a security check. Except for Caspian, Willow, John, Sylvia, the groomsmen, and the bridesmaids, everyone had to go through the security check before entering the venue. Any metal items would be quickly detected. The stewards entered the hotel after Caspian. The heirs from the 5 wealthiest families, as well as guests from all over the country, arrived one by one. The Jade Dragon Grand Hotel had been beautifully decorated. Adorned with flowers and ribbons, it oozed a luxurious atmosphere. However, there were soldiers stationed throughout the hotel. People would distance themselves from the soldiers as they saw their stern faces. Although the stewards often attended business and social gatherings, they had never set foot in such a luxurious hotel. They were all filled with excitement. Curiously, they took in the lavish surroundings. Everything was ready. Affluent businessmen and politicians from Diatoran began to arrive with expensive gifts. Chapter 47. The wedding ceremony officially commences. Jordan gifted Caspian and Willow a beautifully furnished duplex villa by the riverside in South Lake City. It had the finest scenery and was ready for immediate occupancy. He knew of Caspian and Willow's situation with the Stewart family. He understood that a newlywed couple needed a place to call their own. Besides, considering Caspian's noble role as the ruler of Diatoran, they couldn't possibly reside in an ordinary house. Felix, the heir of the Giles family, gifted Caspian a handcrafted Rolls-Royce Phantom, while Zach, the scion of the Giles family, presented a bulletproof level Maybach. Even though they hadn't yet had the chance to meet Caspian in person, they were well aware of the finer details of his daily life. Understanding his regal status as the ruler of Diatoran, they chose to present him with 2 extravagant vehicles. As for some other guests in attendance, the gifts they had prepared were equally precious, with each one being of invaluable worth. Some presented rare jade sculptures, while others offered million-dollar artworks. The value of each gift left everyone in awe. Caspian left Willow with a truly stunning impression of himself today. After the wedding, they received a multitude of lavish gifts, including a luxurious villa worth hundreds of millions, high-end cars worth millions, and an abundance of designer handbags that were nothing short of extravagant. It was at this moment that Willow realized she hardly knew anything about Caspian. He possessed everything beyond her imagination. The presence of senior military officers from southern borders, the scions of major families in the capital, and the presence of politicians and real estate magnates from across the nation at their wedding, left her wondering just how many secrets Caspian still concealed. At the Lunar Hotel, Richard and Alicia, along with their respective families, arrived and patiently awaited the guests that they had invited to their banquet. In theory, the invitations should have been sent out well in advance. The notable individuals of South Lake City should have already arrived by now. However, they waited for quite a while without a single person showing up. The entire hotel appeared unusually deserted, far from the bustling atmosphere one would expect at a wedding celebration. The affluent individuals of the South Lake they had invited heard about Caspian's situation. Those who were invited to Caspian's were the military officer of the South Borders, John Anderson, scions of major families from the capital, along with well-known personalities from across the country to celebrate with him at the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. The grand scale of the event had intrigued everyone. They all wanted to be there to witness the splendor of this wedding, especially with so many prominent individuals gathering at the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel. They also wanted to network and make their presence known to each other. Most importantly, with the presence of senior military officer John Anderson at Caspian and Willow's wedding, anyone would feel tremendously honored if they had the opportunity to exchange a few words with him. So, they hurriedly made their way to the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel beside the Lunar Hotel. However, the moment they arrived at the entrance of the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel, they were informed that they weren't allowed to enter. Caspian had previously made it clear that only those who had received invitations were permitted to attend his and Willow's wedding. Even some of the powerful figures of South Lake City were denied entry. These well-known individuals from South Lake City could only shake their heads in disappointment and leave. They were aware of the underlying tensions between Caspian and Alicia, so no one dared to attend Alicia and Richard's wedding. They only achieved what they have today by recognizing the significance of choosing the right alliance. They understood that offending Caspian could jeopardize their future prospects in South Lake City. After carefully considering their options, they opted to depart without further ado. Consequently, even though they couldn't be part of Caspian's wedding, they had no intention of attending Alicia and Richard's wedding as well. Compared to the opulence of the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel, Alicia and Richard's wedding venue was exceedingly modest, with only their close associates present and no external guests. The animosity between Alicia, Richard, and Caspian grew stronger. At the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel, the wedding host had taken their position, and after their opening remarks, the highly anticipated wedding of Caspian and Willow commenced. When they reached the toasting ceremony, Caspian respectfully greeted Willow's parents without much fanfare. He was the ruler of Diatoran after all. Still, Willow remained full of questions. She asked him directly, "Caspian, with your status, why did you choose to marry me? And why did you want to become a part of the Stewart family?" The entire room fell silent, with everyone eagerly awaiting Caspian's response. "Because you were the only one who ever helped me at work. You never once looked down on me," Caspian replied. Willow was momentarily taken aback. She then continued, "Is it solely for these reasons? With your status, it should be easy to find a girl who can treat you well, shouldn't it?" "Certainly not," Caspian replied genuinely. "During that period, I was going through a tough time. And you, as the boss of the company, not only didn't judge me but took great care of me as well. That's why I gradually developed feelings for you and fell deeply in love. Back then, I had already made up my mind to give you the perfect wedding." Willow was surprised to find out that even her everyday actions were what touched Caspian's heart. It was also at this moment that the Stewart family realized the extent of Caspian's formidable background. However, they had often made sarcastic remarks about Caspian in the past. In Caspian's eyes, they were nothing more than a group of jesters. The crowd was deeply moved by their story, and the applause resounded throughout the venue. At one point, Willow had second thoughts, considering Caspian's seemingly uncertain prospects and lack of a conventional job. She thought that she would have to support this seemingly aimless person for the rest of her life. But who would have known that his background was this remarkable, allowing him to organize such an unprecedented and grand wedding for himself? At this moment, Willow also felt a sense of relief. She realized that her initial choice had been the right one. Initially, all she had wanted was to sign an agreement with Caspian. It wasn't until she found herself genuinely and deeply in love with him that she recognized his remarkable qualities. Sylvia, Zoe, and the others present couldn't hide their envy. Among the crowd, one person looked on. She was consumed by profound regret as she observed Caspian and Willow. It was none other than Caspian's ex-wife, Melanie. She used to underestimate Caspian, choosing to be with a wealthy young man instead. Now, she realized how foolish her decision had been. However, it was too late. Caspian was no longer within her reach, and she couldn't match his status. Everything, including this wedding, could have been hers. Unfortunately, she had missed her opportunity. Sylvia couldn't help but smile when she saw Melanie's regretful expression. She had warned Melanie in the past, telling her that she would undoubtedly regret her decisions. So, Sylvia deliberately gave Melanie an invitation for the sole purpose of letting her witness how magnificent and dazzling Caspian had become today. It was clear now how blind Melanie had been back then. Right at that moment, a waiter with the serving trolley passed by. As he approached Caspian, he suddenly pulled a gun from the trolley and pointed it at Caspian. Chapter 48. A narrow escape. Everyone present was left in shock. They stood frozen the moment they saw the gun. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe stood beside Caspian. They were particularly shaken. Their composure was clearly shattered. Shots were fired without warning. The sound of the shots echoed through the entire hotel. The hotel staff and the guests present were all terrified. They were scrambling to flee in every direction. They had never witnessed such a situation like this. Seeing someone wielding a gun sent them into a panicked retreat. As for the individual disguised as a waiter who intended to assassinate Caspian, they had already been incapacitated. Their limbs were broken before they could succeed. Caspian and Willow's groomsmen and bridesmaids were well prepared for this situation. They reacted swiftly and did not hesitate to take action. The news of Tigra's intentions to intervene at Caspian and Willow's wedding had long been known. Hence, they never let their guard down and remained vigilant from the very beginning of the wedding. Whenever there was anything that might pose a threat to Caspian's safety, they were prepared to address it promptly. Consequently, their attention was on the waiter the moment he approached Caspian. Upon witnessing any suspicious movements, the soldiers disguised in the crowd acted decisively and swiftly. They cut through the chaos with precision. The sudden attack by the waiter left no doubt that he was a member of the Tigran army. This indicated that operatives from the Tigran army had already infiltrated the hotel. Fortunately, the security personnel around Caspian were exceptionally agile. They swiftly incapacitated the assailant by breaking all 4 of his limbs. After all, there was concern that the individual might be carrying explosive devices. While the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel had taken security precautions, the determination of the Tigran army operative to assassinate Caspian at any cost suggested a willingness to sacrifice himself. If he had been shot by a bullet while carrying explosives, the situation could have become even more dangerous. The would-be assassin's joints were struck, causing him to collapse to the ground, rendering him completely defenseless. It was all thanks to Caspian's security team, who swiftly intervened and subdued the would-be assassin. It wasn't until this moment that Willow, Miranda, Zoe, and others realized that the bridal party and groomsmen were not as ordinary as they appeared. Each of them possessed formidable skills and had been well prepared for anything. Willow clutched Caspian's arm tightly in fear, coincidentally the arm that had been hit earlier. As she held onto it, Caspian felt a searing pain, but he remained composed and didn't say much about it. "Hurry, check if there's anything dangerous on him," John, feeling a bit flustered by the attack, quickly directed. The security team subdued the fallen assailant and uncovered a bundle of explosives strapped to his waist. Upon witnessing this situation, everyone present was too terrified to utter a word. With so many people in the vicinity, the consequences of explosives detonating were unimaginable. "Don't worry, everyone. We just need to deactivate the explosives," John said. The well-trained security personnel immediately sprang into action. Within a short span, the explosives were deactivated. The danger was averted. Although the Jade Dragon Grand Hotel had been thoroughly prepared, they didn't anticipate the assailant's early arrival. Fortunately, the quick reflexes of those around Caspian prevented a catastrophe. "Mr. Lynch, what are we going to do with him?" John asked Mr. Lynch. The fact that a senior military officer was seeking Mr. Lynch's guidance in front of everyone left them all stunned. "I'd prefer not to get involved today. I'll let you handle this," Caspian responded. "I understand. Spare his life for now, and then proceed with rigorous interrogation to see if we can gather any information about what's going on at Tigra." John directed the security personnel around. "Everyone, there's no need to panic. The threat has been eliminated, and the wedding can proceed. Kindly return to your seats," Caspian stated. "Staff, please tidy up the area. John instructed the startled hotel staff. The hotel staff nodded and began to clean up the bloodstains from the floor. Willow, along with her family, were once again astounded by Caspian's extensive network of protection. The wedding venue gradually returned to order. "Caspian, what's the matter? You don't look well. Were you scared just now?" Willow asked with genuine concern as she noticed that Caspian's complexion had turned somewhat pale. Caspian felt a sense of embarrassment. As the ruler of Diatoran, he had faced countless dangers and situations, including numerous assassination attempts. How could he possibly be startled? "Yes, but I'm feeling better now," Caspian replied, not wanting to reveal the details of what had happened to his hand to Willow. He simply nodded in acknowledgement. John, Sylvia, and others were aware of the situation with Caspian's hand. They understood what had transpired when they saw Willow gripping his arm. "That's great. Let's keep the wedding simple and proceed with the banquet," Willow suggested. She wasn't sure why Caspian was being targeted, but she didn't want to delve into it. Her main concern was for the wedding to proceed smoothly. "All right," Caspian responded. After the banquet began, Caspian and Willow offered toasts to the guests together. Caspian even instructed John to ensure that the security personnel had the opportunity to dine. Since the entire Jade Dragon Grand Hotel was reserved for the occasion, it was only fitting that these security personnel enjoyed a hearty meal. This wedding completely exceeded Willow's expectations and gave her a deeper understanding of Caspian. Every woman would want her man to be seen as a hero, and Willow is no exception. This day marked the first time in over 2 decades that she felt the admiration of countless people, completely dispelling the prior gloom that she had. The wedding continued until around 8:00 p.m. Caspian arranged nearby accommodations for the out-of-town guests. He and Willow then drove back to the duplex villa generously gifted by Jordan. Kate wanted to see her daughter's villa, and it was a request that Caspian couldn't decline. They also invited Carl. John and Sylvia, along with their team, escorted Caspian to the Riverside duplex villa. The Rolls-Royce Phantom and the Maybach were also driven to the villa's garage by John's men. The gifts received at the wedding were also transported to the villa. John and Sylvia, among others, came to a halt while arriving at the villa. Their mission to safeguard the ruler of Diatoran during his wedding was now almost complete. More important matters await them after that. "Lord Caspian, the situation in the south border is getting worse. Our special plane departs at midnight. It's almost 10:00 p.m. now, which leaves us with just 2 hours. Time is running out. We must hurry," Sylvia whispered, reminding Caspian of the urgency of the situation. "Understood," Caspian replied, recognizing the gravity of the situation. Chapter 49, A False Joy. "We'll wait outside. Time waits for no one." "You get in first," Sylvia whispered to Caspian by her side. While Caspian and Sylvia were talking, Kate, Willow, and Carl had already entered the villa. When they stepped inside, Kate, Willow, and Carl were shocked by everything they saw. The interior of the villa was extremely luxurious, equipped with everything one could only imagine. It truly lived up to its value of billions. Jordan, the young millionaire, was surprisingly extravagant. "Sylvia, before I leave, there's something I want you to do, and I want you to do it personally," Caspian told Sylvia beside him. "At your command, Lord Caspian," Sylvia nodded. "I want you to go to the countryside outside South Lake City and bring my foster mother here," Caspian said. "Foster mother? Lord Caspian, I've never heard that you have a foster mother," Sylvia said with confusion. "That was many years ago," Caspian said while he was lost in deep thought. It was a stormy night with pouring rain when Caspian, still a baby, was placed in a box and abandoned at his foster mother's doorstep. His foster mother was also living alone at the time. When she heard the crying and saw the infant, she took pity on him and took him in. On the box that held Caspian, there were faint bloodstains. These things were only revealed to Caspian by his foster mother later on. Although Lilith's family conditions were average, She did her best to provide the best for Caspian. As Caspian grew up, he joined the military and gradually rose to become the Lord of Diadem Hall. His achievements today were closely intertwined with his foster mother, Lilith. Lord, why didn't you tell me earlier, so that I could make some arrangements for her to live a better life? Sylvia asked as she was puzzled. My surroundings are too sensitive, and I didn't want anyone to exploit the relationship between my foster mother and me. That's why I kept her out of the public eye. If I had allowed her to attend the wedding, it would have caused more chaos. Now that I am about to embark on another mission, I won't be able to visit her frequently. That's why I want you to bring her to the villa, so she can live a worry-free life. It's my way of showing respect, and it will also give me peace of mind while I'm at the border. Understood, Lord Caspian. I'll take care of it immediately. Sylvia nodded. She understood that she had to personally address Caspian's concerns. Driving the off-road vehicle, Sylvia prepared to head to the address Caspian mentioned. Meanwhile, Caspian entered the villa from the outside. Upon seeing him, Kate approached and asked, Caspian, my son-in-law, you seem to be someone significant. The wedding was so grand, with notable figures from all over the country bringing gifts to congratulate you both. Besides Kate, Willow and Carl were also eager to know everything about Caspian. I'm just a retired soldier, Caspian replied, choosing not to disclose his true identity. He was wary that someone with Kate's personality might become boastful if she knew the truth. Thus, he decided to keep his real identity a secret. Willow and Carl were also somewhat surprised to hear Caspian's response. How is that possible? If you're just a mere soldier, why would the renowned senior military officer, John, personally attend your wedding in South Aridlands? And why would there be such a deployment of armed forces, even with armored vehicles and fighter jets as escorts? Kate, to some extent, had a sharp mind. Caspian's words made it difficult for her to believe him. I mentioned to Willow before that I saved the life of a superior officer, who happens to be John. I helped him resolve 3 assassination attempts, and also recovered stolen goods. As for the deployment of armed forces, it was all to protect John. After all, he is a senior military officer, and we can't afford any mishaps. Caspian casually fabricated a reason that coincided with what he had previously told Willow. That's absolutely impossible. Even if John was truly saved by you, what about the young elites from across the country? Why would they all come to attend your and Willow's wedding? Kate still had some doubts and continued to question him. Those were all John's arrangements, Caspian replied. Why would John invite these people? Kate continued to ask. With the current situation in South Aridlands, Sylvia wants me to return to the front lines. I made a promise to Willow that I would give her an incredibly grand wedding, so I asked John for help to invite more renowned individuals. This would make the whole wedding appear more magnificent. Otherwise, I wouldn't agree to go to the front line in South Aridlands. As a mid-level military officer, Sylvia knows almost all of these influential families in the imperial capital. With just a word from her, these people would show respect and give their support, Caspian explained. Why would they insist on sending you to the front lines in South Aridlands when you're just a former soldier and a personal bodyguard? Kate asked again. And why are so many people coming forward to support you? It's true that I am just a personal bodyguard, but I am crucial to the safety of high-ranking officers. Without my protection, their lives would be greatly at risk. Additionally, I have a significant influence on the border situation, Caspian explained. How much influence can you possibly have? Kate skeptically questioned. That is classified military information, Caspian stated. Sigh. It's all just false joy. I really thought you were some remarkable figure. Kate's mood plummeted. From heaven to hell as she found it hard to accept. Regardless, Caspian's promise has been fulfilled, and such a grand wedding has taken place. Our relatives should regard us differently now, Carl said. What do you know? What significance does a wedding hold? He saved General Anderson before. But now that he has returned the favor, the debt is settled. If we ever need help in the future, they won't lend a hand. Kate shook her head and said, as long as we live peacefully and be independent, it won't be necessary to ask for favors from others. Now that Caspian and Willow have such a nice villa and 2 luxury cars, it's already quite good, Carl said. All right, let it be. Anyway, this villa is really nice. And since there are so many vacant rooms, we want to live here together too. Caspian, you wouldn't mind, would you? Kate said. Caspian was somewhat surprised by Kate's request. Internally, he was somewhat resistant, but he didn't want to directly refuse, so he simply nodded and said, it's up to you. I will be heading to South Eridlands soon. Caspian, when will you be going to South Eridlands? Willow asked, only now realizing that Caspian was going to the front lines. She felt both worried and reluctant in her heart. I'll leave in 2 hours, Caspian said. That soon? Willow was surprised. The time frame was too tight. Yes, the front lines are engulfed in battle. I must depart immediately. Caspian nodded. Come to my room later. I have something to ask you. Willow's face flushed slightly. All right. Caspian also had something to discuss with Willow, so they went upstairs together. Chapter 50, Brief Intimacy. The master bedroom was also extravagantly decorated. As soon as they entered the room, Willow asked Caspian seriously, are you really just a bodyguard for John? What else would I be? Caspian didn't directly reveal his identity. He had another purpose, which was to test Willow's sincerity toward him. If you're just an ordinary bodyguard, why did Sylvia, a mid-level officer, intervene on our behalf during the last gathering? I heard her speak to you with great respect. How do you explain that? Willow questioned. Didn't I say earlier that it was all an act? You knew the situation during the gathering. It was indeed because I saved John's life that Sylvia helped us, Caspian explained. Is that really true? Willow was skeptical. Yes, my status isn't as impressive as you imagine. Do you feel disappointed? Caspian asked. To some extent, yeah, but I am already content. After all, you organized such a grand wedding today. It's the most glorious day I've had in years. I never expected you to be such an influential person. How could someone with such a remarkable background continue to work part-time as a delivery man in my company? Willow responded. That's true, but this time, I got myself a good opportunity. Going to the front lines in South Eridlands might give me a chance to make military achievements. Perhaps then, I could truly become someone much more impressive, Caspian replied. I don't need you to become some remarkable figure, and don't need you to achieve great military feats. I just want you to come back safely, Willow shyly said, lowering her head. Okay, I promise I will come back safely, Caspian replied. Willow's worries were completely unnecessary. As the Lord of Diadem Hall, he had experienced countless battles and had witnessed various situations. Just then, Willow noticed some bloodstains on Caspian's right arm. Surprised, she asked, "What happened? Why are you bleeding?" Caspian finally noticed that his clothes had been soaked in blood. He hesitated for a moment but realized he couldn't hide it any longer. On our way back, John and I were ambushed by enemy forces. That's how I got injured. What? You encountered such a dangerous situation on your way back? Willow exclaimed in disbelief. Yes, it was an assassination attempt that caused the delay in our return, Caspian explained. Is it serious? Let me have a look, Willow asked with deep concern. It's nothing. It's just a minor wound. I've already taken care of it, Caspian reassured her. Take off your suit. Let me see your injuries. Willow, seeing the persistent bleeding, found it hard to believe that Caspian had merely suffered a minor flesh wound. Caspian was somewhat reluctant, but Willow had already taken off his clothes. Soon, Willow saw that the shirt Caspian was wearing was completely stained in red. His arm was soaked in blood, with fresh blood still seeping through. Willow was even more shocked as she observed. It took her the entire day to realize the extent of Caspian's injuries. You were shot by a bullet, and yet you insisted on going ahead with the wedding. Couldn't we have postponed it for a day? Willow's heart ached for Caspian. It's all right. I didn't want to break my promise, and I didn't want to disappoint you. I promised you a wedding today, and it had to be today, Caspian responded. Tears welled up in Willow's eyes as she felt a mix of emotions in her heart, primarily feeling touched by Caspian's actions. She never expected Caspian to endure such a severe injury just to honor his promise. Willow suddenly recalled the incident at the hotel earlier. Back then, Caspian's face had turned pale, indicating that it was not due to fear but rather the pain from his gunshot wound. It's just a minor injury. I'm fine. Please don't cry. Caspian comforted her when he noticed the tears in Willow's eyes. Instead of responding, Willow gently rose on her tiptoes and lightly pressed her lips against Caspian's mouth. Caspian was momentarily taken aback when he felt the warmth of her lips. He didn't expect Willow's assertive behavior, but by the time he regained his senses, Willow had already returned to her previous demeanor. You stole a kiss from me. Next time, give me a heads up. I wasn't prepared and couldn't fully savor the moment, Caspian teasingly remarked with a smile. Apart from the previous incident, this was the most intimate exchange they had shared recently. Willow blushed. She was left unsure of how to react to Caspian's playful comment. She leaned in and kissed Caspian impulsively, a gesture filled with unspoken emotions. Moments of passion are priceless. Shouldn't we do something more? Caspian remarked with a smile, noticing the slight blush on Willow's face. Huh? What do you want to do? There are people downstairs. Willow's face flushed with a touch of embarrassment. She had long accepted Caspian, but with her parents still downstairs, engaging in anything at this moment would be too awkward. All right, time is running short now. I need to get ready to leave for South Eredlands. Take care of yourself while I'm away, and wait for my return, Caspian said. South Eredland was in a state of emergency. There was no time to waste. He had to personally gear up for battle to completely drive out the forces of the Tigra. As the Lord of Diadem Hall, he bore a heavy responsibility. Can you not go? Willow asked. South Eredland's front line is a dangerous place where gunfire and chaos were inevitable. Willow couldn't help but worry about Caspian's safety. They had gone through so much together, and now that they were finally together, they hadn't had the chance to fully enjoy their time before Caspian had to leave. I am a soldier, and I must follow orders, Caspian said. There are so many soldiers, one less won't make a difference, Willow argued. My position in the military is of great importance. Even Sylvia, a mid-level officer, treats me respectfully. Caspian chuckled. Humph, don't try to deceive me. I truly mean it. I really don't want you to go to the front lines. I'm afraid something might happen to you. I just want you to stay by my side, Willow pleaded. If everyone seeks only pleasure, who will defend against external threats? The Tigra are currently encroaching on the South Eredland borders. If we don't drive them out in time, they are not going to stop. The welfare of our country takes precedence over individual interests, including our own family, Caspian firmly stated. All right then, you must promise me to come back safely. Willow acknowledged that she couldn't stop Caspian. At this point, all she hoped for was his safe return. After all, they had just gotten married, and Willow didn't want to become a widow. Also, there's something else I want to discuss. I'd like to bring my foster mother here to live with us. Would you have any objections, Willow? Caspian asked. Willow was caught off guard by Caspian's request. He had never mentioned his background nor the existence of a foster mother before.